Victorious FM, brought to you by Victorious Entrepreneurs. Here's your host, single mum, entrepreneur and brain injury survivor, Michelle Williams.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Victorious FM, where every week I'll be introducing you to inspiring women who have gone after their dreams and refused to give up even in the face of extreme adversity. We'll be diving into her victories and her defeats and discovering the lessons that she's learned along the way, all with the aim of inspiring you to step into your own unique power to create a business and life that you love. And this week I was joined by the incredible Mel Bridger, who is a successful fitness franchise owner, blogger and public speaker. Mel is the co-founder of Beatz Fitness and themummytrainer.co.uk, and as you're about to discover, Mel is a multi-skilled, versatile and tenacious female entrepreneur who doesn't let fear stop her from achieving her goals. And in this episode, we talk about some of the adversities that Mel has faced throughout her life, from feeling abandoned as a child to struggling with anxiety as an adult. And we discuss how these challenges have shaped Mel into the successful entrepreneur that she is today. I found this episode with Mel so inspiring, and I know that you will too. Hello and welcome to another episode of Victorious FM, where today I'm really delighted to invite Mel Bridger onto the show today. Hi Mel, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi Michelle, you're welcome. Thank you for asking.
Well, as you know, this podcast is all about celebrating women's triumph over adversity. And I first became aware of you when you were plucked up onto stage at Chris Ducker's Youpreneur Summit, and you shared a part of your story there, which I found so inspiring. So I wonder if you just don't mind sharing a little bit about your victorious story with us today, and sort of how that story and that part of your life has taken you onto the entrepreneurial path that you're on today.
By all means. So when I was at the Youpreneur Summit, where we didn't get to meet, unfortunately, but you did approach me, I had been there the year before and I was a very different person. I suffer from anxiety and depression and have done for about 12 years. And the biggest part for me was that I kept it secret from my family for a very long time. So it was only really a handful of close friends and my husband that were aware of how much I was suffering. Now, I work in the fitness industry, so my job is to make people, in effect, feel better about themselves, and I'm very good at covering up my true emotions. Probably something to do with the fact that I went to theatre school many years ago. So very good at hiding what is actually going on inside. And when I went to the Youpreneur Summit in 2017, I'd had a particularly rough year where I'd say I probably had a nervous breakdown. And I have two small children, so it's a very difficult time for me, where I was trying to hold things together, not only for myself, but obviously for my children as well. So I was a bit of a mess when I went to the very first Youpreneur Summit, almost like a shadow of my former self. People who know me, or rather who know the confident me, never would have believed the person that they would have seen, just because I was so good at hiding it. The person who it was most difficult for me to hide it from, but I felt that she wouldn't be able to handle it, was my mum.
Oh wow, okay.
And I'm the youngest of 5, so my mum is 80 next year, and she's a breast cancer survivor. So I just didn't want to put the stress onto her. I felt that she wouldn't be able to cope with that level of stress, really, finding out that, you know, your youngest child, the one that's always super confident and the one that everybody generally tends to turn to, was suffering quite badly from a hidden stroke debilitating disease that isn't given enough attention, in my opinion. So that was my backstory in a nutshell. Not usually very good at condensing things.
Well, you don't have to at all.
So after the Youpreneur Summit in 2017, I'd met Steve Vanoy, who was on stage with me, and he really supported me and encouraged me to speak to my mum, because I'd had a bit of a meltdown in one of the mastermind sessions that he was in, and he was just very supportive, and he's actually a really good friend of mine now. And when I spoke to my mum about it all, finally, I realised that I hadn't given her enough credit, and that this was a woman who'd raised 5 children on her own and was perfectly capable of being able to not only deal with what I was dealing with myself effectively, but was also able to support me through it. And for her, I've got the utmost respect for her, because she came from an era where things like mental health and depression didn't exist, and you were just told to get on with it.
Yeah.
So for her to be so open about it, and you know, she asks questions, because she says to me, you know, this wasn't around in my day, but she actually makes the effort to ask questions. And I think a lot of the time we assume that the older generation, you know, the old age saying you can't teach an old dog new tricks. It's not a great saying to describe my mother. You know? I think I probably worked under the assumption that she wouldn't be able to look at it and see how it was affecting me. But like I said, I didn't give her enough credit. And so once I told her about that, a huge weight was then lifted off of my shoulders. And with her blessing, she then supported me by sharing my story, not allowing me to share my story, because obviously it's my story, but gave me her blessing and said, go ahead and share your story with others, because I can see that you want to do it to help people.
Absolutely. And I think it's such a powerful thing to do, because there's so many people that do suffer with anxiety, you know, quietly suffering without actually, you know, like you said, actually confiding in other people. But do you think by sharing it has really helped you as well?
Oh, definitely. I think that it's the type of topic that it swallows you up whole if you don't talk about it. It's like being stuck in mud, you know, and you're struggling to get out, and you're just being consumed by it, because you're fighting against the emotions that are inside. But really, you have to accept it. I can only talk obviously about my own personal journey, but I find that acceptance and being open about it has helped me come from a very dark place back into the light. That sounds so cliched, but it's true. To be able to come back and say, okay, so this is how I can deal with things now. I haven't gone back to the way things were, because I don't think you ever go back to the way things are. It's almost like, I refer to it as being an ex-smoker. So, you know, you give up cigarettes, but you'll always be an ex-smoker. You know, you don't revert back to how things were before you started smoking. You just deal with it on a daily basis. And, you know, those cravings will always be there still, but it's how you deal with it. And that's how I describe my experience with mental health, is you just learn how to cope with it differently. It's not that you'll never ever have a dark day, because far from it. You identify when it's happening, and you do whatever it is that you need to do to be able to deal with it. And a lot of the time, accepting it and not fighting against it is the best way to deal with it, really.
Yeah, and how does it impact, obviously with you being an entrepreneur as well, I'm really interested in how sort of suffering with anxiety actually impacts, you know, you on your day-to-day work, really, and everything you're doing as an entrepreneur.
So I am my own worst critic. I say some terrible things to myself, as a lot of people do, really. I know that's not just limited to people that suffer, but I fight with myself sometimes on a daily basis, convincing myself that I am actually good enough to do things. And when you work for yourself, you need to be able to put yourself out there and do these things. And acceptance has a lot to do with that as well. So instead of trying to stop myself from feeling scared or anxious, I accept the fact that I'm scared, but it's not going to stop me from doing what I need to do. And I think that's the main difference, really. I work from home a lot, and it was crippling me, because it's where I eat, sleep, share my home life with my family. I train my clients from home. I work on my MacBook, so I'm a blogger as well, so I write quite a lot, and I manage all of my own social media, etc., etc. So I spend a lot of time indoors in the same place, and I struggle to distinguish between work and personal life. So obviously that caused issues. I've been a bit better this year, probably a lot better, because I run a business with my husband, a fitness franchise, and we have a head office in town. And I didn't go to the office. I never used to work from the office. The thought of going to the office made me feel physically sick. And I've actually been going to the office every Friday now for about a month. And I'm a lot more productive. And it means that when I come back, like, my children get a better version of me, you know, because when you've got children, it's difficult anyway. Parenthood is difficult anyway. So if you pile an additional element of anxiety and depression on top of everything that you go through as a parent, it's just heightened tenfold, you know? So it's taking myself out of my environment and being able to distinguish between work and personal life. That's probably my biggest struggle, if I'm honest.
I think that's so difficult though, isn't it, for a mum and a businesswoman, because, you know, I've been in business for about coming up 18 years now, ever since my children were little. They're 21 and coming up 18 now, and I'm a single parent as well, and have been for about 11 years. But it's so difficult, isn't it, especially if you are working from home, to actually switch off, especially if you're like super motivated and you're passionate about your business. It is that, when do you switch off, and creating those boundaries. So I think that's like super important. But so how do you, I mean, obviously you said you're going to the office on Fridays and that's helping you, but how do you do that on a day-to-day basis when you're actually kind of working from home? Have you got some sort of routines and strategies in place so that you can do that?
It's organised chaos. It's a lot better since my son started full-time school. So I've got 2 small children, 5 and 8, and he's in reception now. So my routine changed, which is what happens when you have children, you know. So even just changing from like 1 child to 2, so, you know, it's a massive difference. So I had to implement structure into my day. So for example, on a Monday, I don't really do a great deal in terms of work because I teach classes in the evenings as well, you see. So I know that I've got my PT clients in the morning, and then that leaves me, after I finish doing my PT sessions, like a couple of hours to get whatever done. So I usually have a look at emails and get housework done, to be honest, because I still need to be able to keep my house clean. So I try and have a designated day in the week where I tell myself it's fine, I can actually clean my house from top to bottom today if that's what I choose to do, and I don't even switch my computer on or look at social media or anything like that, and the world doesn't end. Because I think that you can get caught up with it when you work for yourself. Like, you're on social media constantly thinking, I've got to answer every notification, and then you've like wasted 4 hours of the day on Facebook and you haven't actually got anything productive done. But it's so true. I mean, I actually had to take social media off of my phone because you tell yourself, okay, I'm not going to get distracted by the notifications. You do though. You do, and I've kind of had to start time blocking. So, for instance, Mondays are my podcast days, and then Tuesdays will be my editing days. You know, I actually sort of time block now, and I've taken social media off of my phone so that I actually only look at social media when I go and log onto my laptop, which is during office hours, because I got into the awful state. And this is going back a few years, because I've got a couple of businesses. I've got the Craft Academy and my new venture, which is Beatz Entrepreneurial. But with my business, the Craft Academy, it's like an online course business in the creative sector, and I kind of teach people all over the world how to start a creative home business. But I wanted to offer such customer service that I would allow people to message me at any, I mean, I didn't say to them, you can message me at any time of day, but it's the world we live in where people have got such easy access to you, haven't they? Through Messenger. And so I personally have got, now I'm quite strict that I will only answer those questions kind of during office hours, because I've had sort of my own health issues where I now realise that, you know, you need to look after yourself, which is now where I want to get onto obviously what you're doing now and the amazing business that you've created, because obviously you're a successful female entrepreneur in the fitness sector that obviously does struggle with anxiety, and I think it would be great if you could tell us a little bit about, you know, your business and what you're doing. That would be amazing. Yep, absolutely. So I run more than one business within the fitness industry, because it's just one of those things. When you're an entrepreneur, you need more than one revenue stream, as you've just explained with the 2 different things that you do. So I own a fitness franchise with my husband called Beatz Fitness, and it's a multi-format organisation where it basically means people can purchase a license to run our program. So you would train with me for a day. You'd pay to train with me for a day, and then if you were successful, because we do assessments, you see, you can't just turn up and then you can deliver our program. You have to pass a physical and a theoretical assessment. And once you're successful with that, you then sign up to like a membership scheme, which is why I refer to it as a fitness franchise.
Okay.
And you get access to choreography, marketing materials, additional training. We put events on, quarterly events, things like that. And it's about inspiring and educating people within the fitness industry to be able to go out there and deliver our program successfully, because if they're successful, then we're successful. So that's a big part of what I do.
Yeah. And what was that called? Did you say, sorry, that franchise?
Beatz Fitness. It's Beatz Fitness.
Oh, amazing. And so what kind of fitness is that then?
So we have 3 programs that are available at the moment. So we have 2 dance fitness programs. One is just generic dance fitness, where people will do choreography to different songs, and we keep it simple and straightforward, so it's easy to pick up for whatever fitness level. We then have a glow stick version of that called Glow Beats, where it's in the dark with disco lights and glow sticks, which is a very popular program. And then I've just released a new program called Power Beats, which is functional fitness, absolutely nothing to do with dance whatsoever. So it targets a different market in the fitness industry, which enables our instructors to increase their client base, and they're not just marketing to the same people that are coming to their dance fitness classes.
Okay, brilliant. And you've also got the mummy trainer, is that right?
Yes, the mummy trainer. I'm a blogger and I do public speaking as well. So I was speaking in London on Monday at an event called Digital Women, where I was teaching other women business owners how to use social video for social media to be able to market themselves and stand out from the crowd.
Wow. So you've got lots of irons in the fire, if you like. So how are you kind of balancing this with? Did you say you've got 2 children?
I have 5 and 8.
Yeah. Oh, 5, and they're little as well. Because you mentioned earlier about how your routines have to change with depending on the age of your children. Because I know when mine were little, I had to fit my business into like 3-hour segments, but when they were in nursery, and then all of a sudden they were at school and you got a little bit more time, and it really just changes, doesn't it? You kind of like just get yourself into a routine, and then kind of something changes. So how do you find that you manage that, and does that impact upon your anxiety, you think, because of the all of the juggling that goes on?
It used to, but then I had to look at it, had to take a step back and look at it and think, okay, what don't I need to do? And I'm lucky I've got quite a few friends in the industry, in the entrepreneurial industry, that will tell me things that I might not necessarily want to hear. So, for example, I am quite good friends with Andrew and Pete. I don't know if you heard of it. If you went to the conference, you saw them.
Yeah, they were amazing. Yeah,
incredible speakers. And I've just come back from their conference. They threw their own conference in Newcastle last week for the first time. And yeah, it was really good. And they're doing another one next year. You should go.
Definitely.
So I used to be part of their membership group, and they contacted me and said, we need to talk to you. And I was like, okay. And they just basically told me that I was doing too much and that I needed to get rid of the deadwood.
Okay.
So they didn't need to do that. I was really grateful for them to do that, because in my industry, I am the one that everybody looks to. I don't mean for this to sound arrogant, but I don't really have a peer in this industry, if that makes sense, because I'm an innovator. So a lot of the time, a lot of the things that I do are for the first time, and everybody gravitates and looks towards me for guidance, even if they're not asking for it,
Yeah.
So I had to look at it and go, right, I need to cut the deadwood, because a lot of people wanted to work with me, and Andrew and Pete were like, look, if it's not benefiting your business or you're not going to make money from it, then you need to be able to say no.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just needed somebody to give me a virtual kick. So I was teaching a lot. I was teaching 5 evenings a week as well. It was just ridiculous. I was teaching a lot of group fitness classes. I had a lot of PT clients that were scattered across the week. I was trying to make my fitness franchise, which is only like 20 months old. It's not even 2 years old yet. It's like 19, 20 months old. I was trying to make the fitness franchise work, trying to sort out blogging and everything else. And I just felt consumed. So I took a step back and said, right, okay, I've cut classes, so now I'm teaching Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, and on a Wednesday I teach a family fitness camp that my children and my husband come to. So even though I'm out teaching, they're with me, so it's an extra night that they get with me in the week. Then I moved my PT clients, so I only teach on a couple of days in a week, so I could streamline instead of feeling bitty. I don't know if there's a better word out there. You know what I mean, right? When
I know what you mean, and it's like spreading yourself too thin, isn't it? If you're trying to take on too many things,
Exactly. And I said no to a few projects where, and I'm sure I probably upset a few people, but I was like, it's not going to benefit my business, and you know, I'm watering it right down, and I just needed to say no. So it's the massive changes for me have only really been within the last few months, where I'm feeling a bit more settled and that I don't have to have my phone glued to my hand permanently. But sometimes that does happen, and I have to think to myself, okay, you need to take a step back and have a look at the time and the quality of time that I'm spending with my family. So because of the industry that I work in, I travel quite a lot. So I'm like, okay, well, I can't not travel. So where possible, I take the children with me. So they get to see what I do for a job, and they also get to see a different way, because the path that is set for us a lot of the time when we're children is school, college, uni. If you're not going to go to uni, you need to get a job. Okay, so what's the vocation that I want to work in? And it all feels quite traditional. So for my children, they get to see that. For me, they go to school to learn how to learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of anything else, if they turn around to me and said, right, school's finished, actually, Mum, I'd quite like to start a business doing X. And I'd be like, okay, that's cool. And my husband's pretty receptive that way as well. We would be supportive. In fact, my daughter is 8 and she has her own clothing line.
Oh wow! You've got a little entrepreneur in the family.
Very, very much so. Very much so. She understands how these things work because she watches Mummy and Daddy do it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny that you say that, because when my Elliot, he's going to be 18, but when he was a lot younger, he was quite like that at school. He used to look at ways to make money at school. So I remember this time where all the children, I think it was year 7 of the senior school, all the children had to make a cushion. And so Elliot came up to me and he said, Mum, I've got this business idea. He said, next week we've all got this project and we've all got to make a cushion. He said, what's the betting that half the mums have forgotten to get the stuffing for the cushion? Why don't we go and buy it in bulk? He said, and I'll sell it at school. So we actually, and I thought, oh wow, I actually wanted to encourage him on that. I think they actually should teach more, entrepreneurial stuff at school, because like you say, it's not really considered, is it?
No.
But so we had this little thing where I bought all this extra stuffing, and he went round the school playground asking whose mums had forgotten the stuffing, which obviously the majority of them had. And he always also did this thing where he bought sweets and he sold them at a profit at school. It was against the school rules. He did get into trouble for it, but I was so proud of him because he actually created a little spreadsheet of what he bought, what he bought the sweets, what price he bought them at, and and what he was actually selling them for. And I thought, well, if that's not educational, what is? So it's really interesting to hear about your daughter, that she's doing that as well.
Brilliant. I actually did. I did that with the sweets.
Oh, did you do that?
I used to buy the packets and open them and sell them individually.
Yeah. Oh, so your entrepreneurial journey started off quite young then.
But I'd completely forgotten about that until you just mentioned it.
Yeah, but it's I actually, because he did get into trouble, like I said, the school, you can't do that, that's against school rules. And Elliot was going, you're going to be cross with me because I'm in trouble at school. I said, no, because he did it in such a structured way. He actually thought, what sweets do I want to buy? How much are they? What could I sell them at? What's the profit margin? And he created spreadsheets and everything. So, I think they should do more Dragon's Den type things like that at school. And I think it would really inspire people. And obviously your daughter then has been watching what you and your husband have been doing, and presumably that must have inspired her with her clothing line.
It did, and we produced our own merchandise, so we were able to produce it for her. She sat down with her dad and told him what she wanted on the designs, and we made it happen. And then she had a stall at school, and to be fair, it was me and her nan that ended up selling for her. She just wandered around and stood in front of the banner that had her face on occasionally, but she did bring people over to the stall, and she made a profit, and she knew that some of the profit had to go back into the business to pay for the clothing. She's very, very savvy for her age, and I just think that in this day and age where you have children that are committing suicide over exams, I don't want that for my children. I won't allow that for my children. Like I say, they go to school to learn how to learn. They need to learn how to learn. Yeah. I understand that, but I'll never allow exam pressure to put my children in that situation ever.
No, absolutely. Oh no, that's so interesting. And obviously, and you mentioned earlier about your mum, and she had five children, and so for me, she's the definition of a victorious as well. The fact that
she's incredible.
Yeah, and did she raise all five children alone as well?
Yes.
Yeah, because I heard you mention on another podcast about kind of your relationship with your dad, and is that part of what has caused your anxiety, do you think, as well?
Possibly. We are a multicultural family, for want of an expression. So there's 5 of us. Myself and my brother are mixed race, and our sisters are white. So that in itself caused problems for my mum as she was growing up, having children of different colour. So she had to put up with a lot of crap, for want of an expression. Especially in the 60s, having children mixed race, Yeah. So she put up with a lot, and yeah, I can definitely say that my father's absence contributed to a big part of my personality, where I am overly critical because I felt abandoned. So, and even though I had my mum, who's amazing and she's strong, and my siblings are incredible and really supportive, it's not the same as having a father figure there. Yeah. And I feel blessed because I decided I was never having children, and then I met my husband, and I'm happy that he changed my mind, because he is an incredible father, and he knows obviously everything about my relationship, or lack of, with my own father, and that's really why I didn't want to have children. So he has an incredible relationship with our children, which counts for a lot. I think that I blamed myself quite a lot for my father leaving, especially because he was around for 8 years previously, before I was born.
And you said you were the youngest, did you, as well?
Yeah, I'm the youngest of 5. So he left when I was 6 weeks old.
Oh, wow.
So I blamed myself constantly, thinking, wow, he was around for all that time before I was born. Why did he suddenly decide to leave? Obviously, as an adult, you can rationalise that and say it was actually not your fault. It was his own personal choice. But as a child, to put that kind of pressure on yourself, and then I think it just takes a trigger or an event or some kind of experience really to bring this onslaught of emotion that you'd repressed for such a long time, because as a child you just didn't know how to deal with it. So then when you go into adulthood and you do find a trigger, and then everything comes up, it's just like sweeping things under the carpet, and eventually the pile gets so big that you're going to trip over it,
Yeah. And I mean, how do you actually cope with it? Obviously, I've got friends that suffer with anxiety as well, and they say they can feel it. They can kind of feel it coming on. But do you have any coping strategies, or rituals, routines, or whatever to actually help you with that?
I clean.
Oh wow! It's funny because my friend says the same as well. He also suffers with anxiety. She cleans as well, so that's interesting.
And I'm not like domestic. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm not a domestic goddess. I was thinking of the past tense of that. I couldn't even think of the past tense of that word. Far from it. I've got 2 small children and a large house. But my house isn't dirty. It's just full of stuff. You know. I think prior to that, I hoarded. And my husband will say, you hoarded. That's not past tense at all. You still hoard. But yeah, I clean. That's my coping mechanism when I can feel myself becoming anxious. If I'm not around or I'm not able to clean, then I have to take myself out of my environment. So I've been in the house where I've felt like an anxiety attack's going to come on, and I've just gone out into the garden and just changed my environment. So I tried to change my surroundings, which is why going and working in the office is so important for me, because I'm not in my home. And then it means that when I come home, my mindset is different. And I just think you find different ways of coping. And I'll be honest, it's been, touch wood, it's been a while since I've had an anxiety attack. It's been a good while. But yeah, you just learn to identify it and you do something to distract yourself, basically.
Yeah. And I can't say that I've suffered with anxiety at all, but I do remember a time in my life where I actually went to the doctors and he was going to prescribe antidepressants for me. I was going through, marriage breakup and felt completely overwhelmed, and my whole life was changing. And I remember the doctor said, right, we're going to start filling out this depression questionnaire. And the first question was something like, do you no longer enjoy the things that you used to enjoy doing? I just burst into tears and I said, well, I don't know, because I don't get the time to do the things that I used to enjoy doing, because I'm a single parent, I've got 2 children, trying to run a business. And he said, what did you used to enjoy doing? And I said, well, I used to enjoy running. So he said, okay, we're not going to fill out this questionnaire. Go now. Go and get your running things on, go for a run. And do you know what? That really helped me. And from that moment onwards, I just made that part of my ritual, my routine, that I would drop the kids at school and I would make sure that every day that I ran. And it got me through so many things. And I almost felt invincible after I'd been for a run. So do you, and obviously you're in the fitness industry, does it actually do, with all of the classes that you do, does that help you as well?
Oh, definitely. Well, I mean, you're probably aware that exercise releases the same kind of endorphins that some of the antidepressants, the chemicals that are replacing, like serotonin, for example. So you get the same kind of buzz from it, and it enables me to keep fit as well. And I was considered an older mum when I had my children, because I was in my 30s when I had my children. Oh, okay. And even though I feel much fitter now than I did 20 years ago, and in all honesty, never would have been able to cope if I'd had my children 20 years ago. Personally, I just didn't feel old enough. Didn't feel old enough when I had them. So yeah, exercise definitely helps. And I teach in the community, so I don't work for a gym. I run my own classes. So I have a very loyal following of students that have been coming to me for years. And for a lot of them, it's the only time that they get out of the house. So being able to interact and support them helps you as well, because obviously you feel good when you're able to help others.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
At the same time, having mental health issues like depression and anxiety, I'm also very empathetic, so I have a tendency to take on other people's emotions. So I have to be very careful about that as well. And I have friends that say to me, you don't always have to be there for other people, or I have people where I can support them up to a certain degree, and then I realize that if I continue to try and support them, then it's going to be detrimental to my own mental health. So I have to be careful and take a step back, and you can only help so many people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of people on Victorious FM that have talked about, again, it's kind of mindset related, positive thinking and things like that. And one of the questions that I always ask is, if they have any specific daily rituals or routines, apart from the cleaning, obviously, but that really help you. So, for instance, I can't. I had a brain hemorrhage a few years ago, and I'm not able to run at the moment. But I love being outside, so I always start my day with a 3-mile walk because I love being outside, and also gratitude. I always start my day thinking, what do I feel grateful for? And with being outside, and I just feel that really sets me up for the day. So I just wondered if you've got any particular daily rituals or routines that you use that keep you in that positive state of mind.
This is probably going to sound really weird, but I always make my bed.
Well, that's good. Anything that works for you. What?
That probably sounds weird though, and there's a story behind it. There was a gentleman, I can't remember his name, he was in the Navy, and he talks about mindset and having the right kind of mindset, and just doing simple tasks that can help you keep on track. because I'm a very creative person and I can be quite scatty.
Yeah.
Organisation's not my strong point. Yeah, I worked in human resources for 9 years, so go figure. I'm obviously rebelling. But I remember he did this speech, like, I think it's an alumni speech, you know, when they get up and they speak before a university, or they're invited to come in and speak to the graduating year.
Yeah.
He talked about the things that he did when he worked in the Navy, and he just said that one of the things that got him through all of the things that he saw was, you know, making his bed. And the statement that he said was, if you want to change the world, start by making your bed, because that one simple task can be enough to put you in the right mindset for the rest of the day. So I had to give you context behind that.
Yeah, because
a lot of people don't make their bed when they get up at first thing in the morning, and I have to do that because that starts me off in the right way.
Yeah, I know. I completely get that. But do you think it's part of kind of like this tidy mind thing, though? Because I'm not very good. I'm not like a house proud person, but I don't. If there's too much mess, my brain feels a mess. I can't kind of.
Yeah. Snap.
Yeah.
I'm the same.
Yeah, which is really difficult, isn't it? Because you're a businesswoman and a mum. There's always mess, isn't there? There's always.
Absolutely.
So it's like
state at my desk at the moment.
Yeah. And mine are teenagers, so I hate to say, but it gets even worse. So
so I've heard.
Yeah, it does. It gets even worse. But so I completely get what you're saying there, because I think that's kind of the whole tidy mind thing. Because there's that saying, tidy desk, tidy mind. As I actually look at my desk at the moment, which is a complete mess. So I know.
Yeah, I'm going to clean it when we get off the school.
But I'd like to ask you as well, because obviously you've gone through a lot of adversity. You've talked about the fact that, your dad left when you were just a baby, and you've been brought up by your mum with your 4 siblings, and you've had all of these issues. So you've gone through a lot of adversity. But what would you say? What would you consider to be your biggest triumphs in life at this stage?
Oh, my children.
Yeah.
My children, and again, it might sound cliched, but my children are my driving force. I have tattoos on each wrist, and one wrist is my children's names within an infinity symbol, which obviously means never ending. And then on the other wrist, I have the word strength tattooed, and the G is an infinity symbol. So when things get really tough, all I have to do is put my hands together, and I can see that my children keep me strong. Yeah.
And are they the driving force behind your entrepreneurial spirit? Because obviously you're so
absolutely,
you're so passionate and determined, but it's your children that are really driving you.
Yeah, well, they're our legacy, aren't they? So, I've done so much. I travelled the world as a professional dancer, so I've seen a lot, I've done a lot. I had my children later in life, so I have a lot of life experiences, and I think that I want them to be able to be the best that they can possibly be, and I don't want them to feel restrained. And like I was talking about school, if my children decide to leave school and not pursue education any further in that vein, but decide to become entrepreneurs, which I have no doubt that's going to happen, then I'll support it, because that's the direction that they want to take. I encourage my children not to conform to a certain degree. Like, obviously they need to have a respect for adults and education and the environment that they're in, but I encourage them to ask questions. And from the age of 3, when my children could coherently string sentences together, both of them were able to say knowledge is power.
Oh wow.
And my daughter understands fully what that means, and she also understands that data is power as well, because her dad is a data analysis and insights manager, so they understand how important data is. And my daughter can actually code. She's been able to code since she was 5.
Oh, that's amazing. And I think the thing is, they've got you and obviously your husband for them to sort of look towards for as role models. And I think when I think about my entrepreneurial journey, my children were my driving force, particularly as a single parent, because there was nobody else. I had to put food on the table. But also you want to be a good role model for your children, don't you? And
absolutely.
Absolutely. So I think, I love what you just said there about you've got no doubt that they're likely to go down that route as well. Sounds amazing. I wanted to ask you as well, because one of the things I'm really interested in is if there are any books or podcasts or audiobooks or anything that, again, that you kind of listen to, which will like really keep you positive and focused on success?
Oh, wow. Okay, I own a lot of books. And I do have an Audible account as well. There's quite a few books out there. So the Big Magic was a big one for me. I went to Jamaica last year because my stepmom had ovarian cancer.
Oh, wow.
So I needed to go and see her before she passed, and she passed 2 days before Christmas. And that was a book that got me through the period of time that I spent in Jamaica. Big Magic is an incredible book. If you can read it or listen to the audiobook, then I'd wholeheartedly advise people to listen to that. Michelle Obama Becoming as well is a really great story to see how she grew up and the adversity that she faced, and also you get a different insight to Barack and obviously his journey and their journey to the White House. There's so many. Anything, audiobooks, if I had to choose, I like listening to Gary Vee. I find him very entertaining, but he also talks a lot of sense as well. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea because he likes to swear. He actually gave me a kick a few years ago, which he'll never realise, obviously, where he did a short video where he talked about the 40-year-old housewife and saying that with technology today, you can run a business, you can be of any age, but you can run a business from the palm of your hand. And I just turned 40 at that time. And I was like convincing myself, this was where I was going through my rough period. So I was convincing myself I'm not able to do anything, I can't do this stuff. And Gary Vee just basically doesn't give you an option. He just says, well, it's just an excuse if you're telling me you can't do it. No one's saying that your life isn't bad or that you haven't experienced bad things, but it's how you choose to take that next step that counts.
I love that, because that's really my whole ethos behind a Victorious FM podcast, but also Victorious Entrepreneurs, because I really want women to realise that whatever we go through in life, we all have the choice of how we respond to those challenges, and we can decide whether we want to be the victim or the victress of our own lives.
Definitely.
So and that's something, I mean, I've sort of had to deal with like 2 pregnancy losses. I got fired from my job for being pregnant. I've gone through divorce, single parenthood. I suffered a brain hemorrhage 3 years ago, and I wasn't sure. I basically wasn't able to work for 3 years. So although I had my business, the Craft Academy, I couldn't work for 3 years, and I've been struggling with so many cognitive things, because a brain injury is kind of like an invisible disability. So although physically I'm fine, I suffer with memory, multitasking, planning, organisation, all those things us entrepreneurs need are the things that I really struggle with on a day-to-day basis. But I just took the decision as like, I have been a businesswoman for the past 18 years, and yes, it's a struggle. It's a struggle, but it's kind of like my identity, and so I don't want to give up on that, even though things are a struggle. I have, I have to find different ways of doing things, and I may not get as much done as I used to, but I'm hoping that my story, and also sharing the stories of other victoresses like you, Mel, will really inspire people that we all have the choice to create what we want out of our own lives, because I really do believe that's true. And I think regardless of whether we suffer with anxiety or depression, so many of us tell ourselves stories, we tell ourselves we can't do that, or I'm not clever enough, or I'm not brave, whatever the story is. And I really do want to, get that message across, and also to try and understand sort of strategies that people use to, try and cope with that. So some of the conversations I've been having with some really inspiring women are telling me that they practice gratitude, they use journaling, meditation, exercise, walking, running, or whatever. And that's why I was asking you the question about if you listen to anything, or if there's any books, because that's something that I, personally find that helps me if I listen to something inspiring. But in terms of, all of the challenges that you've been through, how do you think they've actually shaped you into the person that you are today?
Well, I'm full of cliches today.
I love them. Keep going.
Gotta love a good cliche. But literally, my mum always used to say to me, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I think it's true, because when I think about some of the situations or the experiences that I've had, I've known that people have had the same ones and haven't been able to continue. And so you have to take literally every day, you have to be thankful for every day. And losing, even though I had a fraught relationship with my dad, he died when I was 24. So I was grieving for the man that I didn't have. And then when I lost my stepmom, because she really was my final link to my dad, but she was also an incredible woman who supported me and my children and gave me closure. So when I lost her, it was actually worse than losing my dad. And I think that when you lose people close to you, especially because she was taken by something like cancer, which I'm thankful my own mum is a breast cancer survivor, it makes you value life a little bit more. And even though people are like, oh, you know, there are worse people out there, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I always say to my students, that doesn't make your situation any less important. That doesn't make your situation any less impactful. You know, people take solace in those kinds of things, but it doesn't need to be that for you if that doesn't work. It's about taking small steps and about taking one day at a time. And I think that's all you can do. But when I talk about fear, I spoke about it earlier on, and rather than trying to fight the fear, you kind of have to face it and embrace it. So be aware of it, and that's what I do, but it doesn't stop me from doing what I need to do. You know.
Do you find though that sometimes whatever the thing is that you're telling yourself that no, I can't do it, I'm too scared to do whatever, do you find though that once you actually do it, it's not as scary as you made it out to be in your mind? Absolutely,
100%. But it doesn't stop you from telling yourself that you can't do it. I mean, I've done some crazy things. Like last year, myself, my husband and some of our team, we were on Dragon's Den.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
So unfortunately we didn't get broadcast, but that was one of the scariest things I've ever had to do in my life, stand up and pitch in front of 5 multimillionaires that are trying to rip your business apart.
Oh my God, that's amazing. So and how did, I mean, I've got to hand it to you, because whenever I've seen that, it looks terrifying, particularly when they get to the financials bit. I literally wouldn't be able to do it, and particularly now since my brain hemorrhage, because I literally can't remember my own phone number. So if they started asking me questions about my business plan, it would go to pieces. So how did that go? And it was scary, but luckily I am the face of the company, and my husband is the brains behind the scene. And he'd tell me off if I said that, because literally I'm happy to be deemed as the face, but I actually make a lot of the decisions behind the business. But I sometimes like people to underestimate me. Do you think they could? Because you're such a, I would find it difficult, having sort of seen you up on stage and seen some of your videos. I would think it would be difficult for people to underestimate you, because you come across, like you said, I know you talked about your anxiety, but you do come across so confidently. I think that when you're passionate about something, like you said, this isn't going to be the same for everybody, but when you're passionate about something, I can stand up there and once I'm in my flow, I can get going, but inside I can be terrified. I think that growing up, I didn't go to a particularly good school, which is now a housing estate. So in the school, back in the day, I mean, I'm 42 soon. So back in the day, it was very much about the top 5% performers, and anybody else who fell underneath that bracket just didn't even get a look in or wasn't supported. So I was used to being told that I wouldn't amount to anything, or the teachers not bothering to give you the time of day, or not feeling supported at school. So I guess when you grow up and you think, oh, well, I can't actually be that smart, or I'm not really that smart at all, you start to tell yourself that as well. And then it's only when you're surrounded by the right kind of people. And even now I still find it weird when people are like, oh my God, you're like really this smart, savvy businesswoman, and I'm like, really? But I'm thinking, well, actually, how many people could stand up there and argue the toss with Peter Jones, which I did when he was trying to rip my business apart? Not many, and certainly not me.
And live to tell the tale, so to speak. So it's I like being underestimated, but it's becoming far more difficult now because more and more people are starting to see what I'm capable of doing.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's really exciting that you've been there as well. But do you think, with all of the sort of adversities that you've been through and the triumphs that you've gone, because we've talked about some of the businesses that you've set up with Beatz and your blog and everything. Do you think if you hadn't have faced those adversities that you wouldn't have gone on to have these triumphs? And also you mentioned at school that you were told that you wouldn't amount to much. Did that somehow like push you and motivate you forward, would you say? Maybe not initially, because like you said, you do tell yourself that story, but did it also give you a drive? Because I certainly feel that from my point of view, I didn't do very well at school either, because I was telling myself, well, I'm not very clever. But do you think those things actually helped you and sort of spurred you on in a way?
Yeah, I think so. I never really did like being told what to do.
No.
And I actually put that out there. I created a quote, I had some photos taken last week in Newcastle, and I actually put a quote out there, and it said, I was quite often told in my life that I wasn't good enough or I'd never amount to anything, and I said on the bottom, I never did like being told what to do. And my mum, and even people say to me now, because I've worked for myself for 8 years, 9 years nearly, I've been out of corporate, when I even say anything about, oh, maybe I should go and get a job, like anyone who's close to me just laughs, and they're like, you so couldn't go back to having a boss.
Yeah.
I didn't cope very well when I had one.
Yeah, no, I didn't either. But I think particularly once you have started your own business, I don't think there's any way going back, is there? I certainly can't go back.
I don't think so. And I think you're right to actually answer your original question. I think, yes, my life would be very different if I hadn't had those adversities. Maybe I wouldn't have had the amount of drive. I'd probably still be quite passionate, but you take your drive from your experiences, don't you?
Yeah, no, I just wonder, because I know, my whole entrepreneurial journey started because I got fired from my job for being pregnant, and I went on to actually lose the baby. But it's kind of, it was a really horrible time to go through, but it kind of made me never want to have to work for somebody else again. So it was like such an awful time in my life. I was depressed. I actually felt like I was going to have a nervous breakdown because, I'd been betrayed by people I'd worked for a long time. And so I felt completely victimized. And I was grieving the loss of, a much wanted baby. And it seemed such a dark time. But when I look back at my life now, I kind of think, well, okay, that happened for a reason. It put me on the path that I'm now on. And I kind of feel the same about my brain hemorrhage because, again, it was like an awful, horrible thing. I went from, feeling invincible to suddenly lying in a hospital bed, being rushed for brain surgery, thinking I was never going to see my children again. But now, 3 years out of that, I just feel so full of gratitude, and it's really where my mission for Victorious Entrepreneurs comes from, and that I really want to inspire people that we choose whether we want to be the victim or victorious of our lives. So that's why I asked that question, because I do feel sometimes the adversities we face, I think sometimes happen for a reason, and it's kind of to put us on a new path, or to to really to give us a chance to respond in a certain way, because we all have the choice on how we respond to certain situations, don't we?
Yeah, I'd agree with that 100%. I mean, I left my job when I had my daughter, so my labour was quite traumatic. I don't really want to talk about it, just in case my daughter ever listens to this, because she's not aware of the story.
Yeah.
And so I think after that, once I'd had her, I was like, I can't go back into a day job now. I mean, I was teaching dance anyway. I was a professional dancer, so I used to travel at weekends, and I'd started to teach dance fitness, and I thought, I'm looking at this little girl, I don't actually want to go back to work and put her in nursery and be away from her like all week to be paying for childcare. So if I'm going to do this now, I need to just give this hobby, for want of an expression, a really good shot. And so that's what I did. So it was literally the birth of my daughter, I think, that was the turning point for me. Yeah. It was like, right, you've got this, and even if you think you haven't got this, you've got this baby that needs you that needs a mum around her. And, 8-9 years later, I was able to take care of my daughter. And, mum picks her up from school, takes her to school, attends all these craft days and stuff. And then I'm able to do exactly the same for my son. And I think those are really important, aren't they? Those years are really important.
They're so important, and I mean that's another driver for me really, was that freedom and flexibility to be able to be there for my children, to be able to pick them up from school and drop them at school, but just to be there for them. So even if I was working, so quite often I'd always walk them to school and walk them back from school, have a little chat on the way back, get them a little snack and get them to get on with their homework, and I might have to go and do another hour's work or something. But I was there. They always knew that I was here. And I think that's a big motivator for a lot of women starting in business, is that freedom and flexibility. Definitely. So we're going to have to draw the podcast to a close in a moment. But I just had one question that I wanted to ask you before we do go. And that is, in light of everything that you have been through, if you could go back and give your younger self a piece, a really good piece of advice, what would that be?
Don't listen to the devil that's sitting on your shoulder so much, because I definitely talked myself out of doing several things when I was a lot younger. Yeah,
I love that. And I think we have all been there. We've all had that, haven't we? And we continue to have that devil on our shoulder talking us out of things, I think, as we progress through life. So I think that's a really great piece of advice. So I just would like, before we close off then, is just really to find out, if people want to find out more about you, Mel, and get in contact with you, how can they do that?
So the main place for people to go would be my blog, which is themummytrainer.co.uk. And I'm on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram as themummytrainer.co.uk. So if anybody wants to reach out, drop me a DM or an email, then please feel free.
That is brilliant. I'll make sure that we have those links over on the show notes, and also over at victoriousentrepreneurs.com, where we'll have the podcast interview embedded onto the website. But I want to thank you so much. I've really enjoyed chatting to you and finding out more about your victorious story. So thank you so much for joining me today, Mel.
Oh, you're very welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. I will connect with you soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
And to you, our wonderful Victorious FM listeners, I hope that you've enjoyed this interview as much as I have. Don't forget, if you want to find out more about Mel, please either check out the show notes or head over to victoriousentrepreneurs.com, where all of our podcast guests are featured on our website. Please also check out all of our amazing free resources to help you through each stage of starting, launching and growing your own successful business. And don't forget to subscribe to Victorious FM on iTunes or Stitcher to make sure that you don't miss out on another inspiring episode. But until next week, stay victorious.
You're listening to Victorious FM. Victorious Entrepreneurs, for women who are victorious in business and in life.